Hello everyone. I hope you guys are doing well. I welcome you all in our new lecture. And in today's lecture, we are going to discuss about the biodiversity and its conservation. So, starting with the conservation. What is conservation? Conservation is the protection, preservation, management, or restoration of wildlife and natural resources such as forest and water. There is urgent need not only to manage the and conserve the biotic wealth, but also to restore the degraded ecosystem. Right? So this is why we need the conservation of biodiversity. Coming to the types of conservation, there are mainly two types of conservation strategies which are adopted to conserve biodiversity. The first is in situ conservation and the second is ex situ conservation. So you can very well understand in this flowchart. Biodiversity conservation strategies are of two types, in situ and ex situ. In situ conservation strategies means on-site conservation, and this means off-site conservation. Let me tell you what is on-site conservation and what is off-site conservation. On-site conservation means a species or the biodiversity is being conserved in the natural habitat or within its original habitat. In ex situ conservation, a species is being conserved in an external habitat, right? So here are the examples of in situ conservations. All these areas where biodiversity is being conserved in its natural habitat are known as protected areas. These protected areas can be national parks, biosphere reserves, wildlife sanctuaries, right? And these wildlife sanctuaries can be in terrestrial origin and can be of marine in origin. Ex situ conservation strategies include seed banks, cryopreservation, field gene banks, sacred plants, home gardens, arboreta, botanical garden, zoological parks, and aquariums. So these are the biodiversity conservation strategies. Let's see and discuss one by one in detail. Coming to the in situ conservation, it means that the conservation of plant and animals in their natural environments. In situ conservation is on-site conservation or the conservation of genetic resources in natural population of plant or animal species such as forest, genetic resources in natural populations of the tree species. Right? I hope it is clear. At present, there are more than 37,000 protected areas around the world. So here we will discuss about the all protected areas such as national park. So national park is an area which is strictly reserved for betterment of wildlife and where activities like forestry, grazing or cultivation are not permitted. In these parks, even private ownership rights are not allowed. Their boundaries are well marked and circumscribed. At present, there are over 600 protected areas in India, and out of which 103 are national parks. They include a variety of ecosystems and habitat. Here is the list of some major national parks of India, and it is very important for your exam perspective. You should at least remember 3 or 4 examples from each category. So here you can remember the first national park of India, also known as Jim Corbett National Park, which is situated in the state of Uttarakhand, and it was established in 1921. And here is the area of Jim Corbett National Park. It was the first national park of India. and initially its name was Herle National Park. The second national park is Dudhwa National Park, which is in Uttar Pradesh, established in 1977. Third national park is Gir National Park. It is in Gujarat and established in 1965. Next is Kanha National Park, which is in Madhya Pradesh, established in 1955. Another is Kangar Ghati National Park, which is in Chhattisgarh, and it was established in 1982. Similarly, Kaziranga National Park is in Assam, famous for one-horned rhino, and it was established in 1974. Another is Nanda Devi National Park, which is in Uttarakhand, established in 1982. So there are all national parks which you can remember. Coming to the wildlife sanctuaries. Wildlife sanctuary is a protected area which is reserved for conservation of only animals and humans. Activities like harvesting of timber, collecting minor forest produce, and private ownership rights are allowed. So, unlike national park, here these activities are permitted, right? As long as they do not interfere with the well-being of animals, right? At present, there are more than 500 wildlife sanctuaries in India, and here is a list of few wildlife sanctuaries of India. The first is Ghana Bird Sanctuary, which is in Rajasthan, established in 1982. Hazaribagh Wildlife Sanctuary in Jharkhand, established in 1954. Madhumalai Wildlife Sanctuary, which is in state of Tamil Nadu, established in 1940. Jaldapara Wildlife Sanctuary in the state of West Bengal, established in 2012. Mount Abu Wildlife Sanctuary, which is in the state of Rajasthan, established in 1960s. Annamalai Wildlife Sanctuary, also known as Indira Gandhi Wildlife Sanctuary and National Park, it is in the state of Tamil Nadu and established in 1989. So you can remember all these wildlife sanctuaries, at least four or five, right? Coming to the another category of protected areas, that is biosphere reserve. It is a special category of protected areas where human population also forms a part of system. And these are larger areas than the national park and wildlife sanctuaries. Sometimes a biosphere reserve also includes wildlife sanctuary and national park, right? The concept of biosphere reserve was launched in 1975 as a part of UNESCO's program Man and Biosphere. And under this program, the first biosphere reserve of India was established, that is Agasti Mala Biosphere Reserve and Nilgiri Biosphere Reserve. And Nilgiri Biosphere Reserve was declared India's first biosphere reserve, established in 1987. So list of major biosphere reserves of India is here. Nanda Devi Biosphere Reserve, Uttarakhand. It also includes the Nanda Devi National Park, Manas in Assam, Gulf of Mannar in Tamil Nadu, Great Nicobar in Andaman and Nicobar Island, and Panchmadi in Madhya Pradesh. They are the large protected areas and usually having more than 500 square kilometer of area. A biosphere reserve have three parts and it is divided into three parts. The first is core zone, second is buffer zone, and third is transition zone. Let's see through this diagram. In this picture, you can see this dark green part is this dark green area is core area, right? So this is the core area. Light green area is buffer area, and this is the transition zone. So core zone, buffer zone and transition zone. Here you can see in core area, there is no human settlement. It means no human activity or no human interference is allowed in this core area, right? But in transition zone, you can see here are few human settlements. So a limited human activity is allowed in the buffer zone, and in transition zone, there are more human settlements, right? So in these areas, tribal communities can live freely and also they can obtain the forest products. Let's see what are the limitations of all these three zones. Core zone, which is the inner zone, and this is undisturbed and legally protected area. No human activity is permitted here. So this point you have to remember. In buffer zone, this zone lies between core zone and transition zone, and some research and educational activities are permitted here. So limited human activity is permitted. And the last zone, which is outermost zone, and in this area, cropping, forestry, recreational, fishery, and other activities are allowed. That is, free human activities are permitted here. So this is the area, means transition zone, where tribal communities or villages are there, right? So what are the advantages of in situ conservation? The flora and fauna live in natural habitat without any human interference, which is more favorable condition for conservation of biodiversity, right? The second advantage is the life cycles of organisms and their evolution progress happens in the natural way. Another advantage is in situ conservation provides unrequired green cover and its associated benefits to our environment. It is less expensive and easy to manage, and the interests of indigenous people are also protected, right? So these are the advantages of in situ conservation over ex situ conservation. I hope you enjoyed this lecture. Thank you.